a lot of people are talking about how the Metropolitan Stock Exchange is something that we have to look at now. And there are some names, big names being thrown around. So let's talk about that. What's happening there, Sharique?
Yeah, man, it's crazy what's happening. There is a new stock exchange as it is being discussed on Twitter. I open Twitter and this is what I see entirely. Everyone's talking about this new exchange coming up. But yeah, we'll talk about that in length. It's not a new exchange, but again, Metropolitan Stock Exchange, a stock exchange regulated by SEBI, raising nearly 240 crore rupees from big names like the Kamath brothers via their Rainmatter initiative, from
Grow founders.
Grow founders, and then Share India, which is again a listed company. So Twitter is all crazy about, hey, new exchange is in place, and they've raised so much money from popular names in the broking industry.
That's what is triggering this conversation. Even we are discussing it only because these names are involved in this transaction, right? The Kamath brothers as well as Grow founders, they are involved, so everyone is talking about it. I wonder if that in another world where they just raise maybe even 300, 400 crores, without these names, it would have not have been talked about even by us.
Yeah. So because if you think about it, maybe let's talk about the why this is being discussed and
the
why
hidden why.
Yeah, why people are so interested, right? So let's do a rewind and understand what has been happening in the Indian stock market, or especially the futures and options trading market for the last 3, 4, 5 months, right? SEBI definitely, we spoke about this in the beginning as well. SEBI definitely wants to reduce the number of FNO traders, option traders in India. And when the number of option traders are increasing, obviously traders are like not really happy because they can't trade a lot like before. But who is the other large entity which is definitely sad? All the brokers, right?
All the brokers.
Because if you look at Zerodha made nearly 9,000 crore rupees of revenue in the last financial year. And Nitin is very open about this. He's like very clear that with the SEBI regulations coming in place, where the number of weekly expiries is going down, the lot size is increasing, so number of option traders are anyways going to go down. He has already put this out in public saying that Zerodha's revenue could go down by 30-50%.
Yeah.
And the entire broking fraternity, the ecosystem is saying that all these brokers, their revenue is going to hit by like 40, 50, 60, even 70%.
Yes.
Why? Because the FNO trading is going to go less. Why? Because SEBI said that weekly expiries should reduce, the lot size should increase. And that is when we are hearing about a news saying that these brokers whose revenues are going to be hit are coming up. They're investing into a new exchange, or not a new exchange, an exchange which has already been there, and trying to revive it back up with its own weekly expiries.
That's not fully public yet, but then that's the idea, right? It's very clear, the timing, the choice of investors, everything looks to point to the hidden why, which is they want to start this exchange. So as I understand, SEBI has said that only one weekly expiry per exchange. That's the nuance, right?
Now you come up with a new exchange can have another weekly expiry. So now there will be 3 weekly expiries in a week. So if there are like maybe 2 more exchanges, if more people are coming up with, and those new exchanges are having their weekly expiries for their benchmark index on a different day, eventually we could again end back in a world where there are
I think
daily expiries.
These are the capitalists, the brokers playing cat and mouse with SEBI, the regulator.
Yeah, so that's why people are discussing this a lot on Twitter. They're like, hey, the regulator is coming up with a lot of things, but this capitalist world, because there is a demand from the users like us, the capitalist world of brokers and these business people, they'll find some loophole, some way to circumvent and do something about how they can get over the regulation. But now that is all. That is maybe, I don't know, like we talked a lot about what people are discussing. Now maybe let's bring back stuff and talk about the reality. And the reality being, Metropolitan Stock Exchange is not a new exchange. They have been here for some time. So maybe let's understand this, right? So there is NSE and BSE that we all know, we popularly talk about. So Metropolitan Stock Exchange is also another stock exchange which has been there.
Already registered with SEBI.
Absolutely, since early 2010s. And it's not just MSE, right? If you look back into the days, there were a lot of regional stock exchanges, more than 30 stock exchanges back in the days.
In fact, I was looking at it today. There was a Bangalore Stock Exchange. There was, I don't know, in almost every state had
Kolkata Stock Exchange, Cochin Stock Exchange. So there were a lot of exchanges.
And Cochin Stock Exchange still has its board, by the way. So if you drive past it, you can still see it.
From Kalur to near the MG Road, when you go on the left, you still see that building. And Kolkata Stock Exchange, very famous for the Ketan Parikh scam as well. So there were multiple stock exchanges. Metropolitan Stock Exchange was not so popular, not one among those so very highly functioning ones. But then this got formed at around the early 2010s.
Yeah.
And then
was backed then by Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and Radhakishan Damani.
Absolutely.
Right?
So it's not a new thing at all. Regulated by SEBI, very much real. And it's just that the other ones, like we spoke about, the Cochin and the Calcutta and Bangalore Stock Exchange, they got shut. But these Metropolitan Stock Exchange, they somehow survived, and they haven't been doing really nice. I mean, yes, they have their SX40 index.
So, SX40B or something. It's a Nifty equivalent.
So NSE has Nifty, BSE has Sensex, and the Metropolitan Stock Exchange, they have their
SX40.
So that's how it is. So they have their index. FNO
is enabled from 2013.
Correct.
I've never heard about this exchange.
No popular brokers has MSE on them or Metropolitan Stock Exchange on them. So that's why we are not trading it. It's not popular.
Yeah.
So they haven't been doing that great. So like I tried to go into their website. The website is not even loading. I had to go into this other website called the Wayback Machine to actually look into what the original Metropolitan Stock Exchange was. I could actually find their annual reports as well. So in FY22, they actually made a revenue of nearly 14 crores, but they made losses in the tunes of nearly 23 crores. So they've always been not doing that great. They're trying to revive this, is what we can understand.
Yeah, the website not loading, them making a lot of losses. I think it all points to the fact that it was sort of like a dead exchange now, right? But that's when I remember we went for that event. Maybe you can talk about.
Yes. So the last Jainam. So Jainam conducts this huge options convention of sorts. I think one of the largest options conference in India is conducted by Jainam, which is again a popular broker. So last time I went in, it was in Surat, and there during that exhibition place, Metropolitan Stock Exchange had put their stall.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the first place where I saw them. But now to see all these things which are developing now, it's definitely very, very interesting.
So I'm curious, can anyone start a stock exchange? So I understand in this concept, it's not starting, it's more like reviving. There's already a stock exchange. They desperately needed funds to get back on track, and the brokers have all come together and put in money, right? But can anyone start an exchange?
Yeah, so contrary to popular belief, where a lot of people think that, hey, there's only NSE and BSE and then there are no other exchanges which are popular, but that's not right. I mean, anybody technically can start an exchange in India. Anybody can go to SEBI. There is a provision and a mechanism to do that. You have to have a lot of eligibility criteria and requirements, and then there is a formal application process. You can apply, and if it gets through, yes, anyone can actually technically become an exchange.
But I think it would be a very rigorous process, and that's why a lot of people are not going through it. Or maybe we'll see that over the next few years, applications will start increasing, and we'll maybe move into that world where the cat and mouse world, where SEBI will have to again deal with 4 or 5 weekly expiries, right? And again, maybe a regulator fights back. So a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, so again, technically on paper, this all sounds good. I mean, people can speculate about these on Twitter, can have like fun discussions and stuff like that. But I think the practicality of all this is very less. MSC again has been there, like we said before, since 2013. So they've been there since a long time. So they just have to revive. But for a lot of new exchanges to come into being, I see the probability, the chances are very less. But yeah.
Yeah. And just for clarification, while you said there exists only NSE and BSE, there still are other exchanges which are called as commodity exchanges.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. There is a NCDEX and the
very famous MCX.
MCX on the other side as well. We also have the infamous IEX, right, which is again a listed company, Indian Energy Exchange also. But dealing with equities, right, there are only 3 exchanges which have licenses: NSE, BSE, and this MSE.
And this MSE is being currently revived by this group of private brokers in order to actually, I don't know, let's not talk about what they really want to do, but let's see it out. So I'm really excited to see what's happening. This SX40, is it actually going to have its expiry? So they actually came up with a circular a few days before saying that their weekly expiry of SX40 is being moved from Thursday to Friday or something like that. So they're already playing around with their expiry day, the weekly expiry day. Let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's, again, as I said, the regulators versus the capitalists. And I think the game is not over. Once this starts becoming the mainstream, I think the regulator will again fight back. Because I read this very interesting Reddit thread which said that SEBI and the government, they don't really care about the retailers' losses. What they really care about is the funds flowing out of the country, right?
Yes.
And this is, and again, we discussed in the last episode about Forex in depth, why the Forex numbers fluctuate and what the government did previously to control the rupee's value going down. And again, this is one of the controls being brought in. So I'm sure the government is going to take it very seriously. And even if the brokers fight back, the government is going to fight back harder.
Absolutely. So even I read that Reddit post and I completely relate to it, given that Jane Street, based out of the US, alone made billions of dollars of profits from the Indian market, which means that 10,000s of crores of rupees from Indian household moved out of India into US or the traders there, which is a bad thing for the Indian economy. So again, re-establishing what you said, speculation is that SEBI and the government of India is not really caring about Indians losing money. They're caring about Indian money going out and thereby rupee getting affected. So that's
So do you think the retailers will benefit from this? Do you see the expiries increasing, traders opportunities increasing? What do you think?
So a new weekly expiry coming in with SX40 is definitely a good news for all profitable traders. Profitable traders love getting new daily expiries, right? But what is even more interesting is the fact that this is from a revived exchange called Metropolitan Stock Exchange, and this is being revived by some private brokers, famous names like the Kamath brothers and Grow and Share India. So it is very, very interesting. But I also am very, very slightly skeptical here because BSE also started their weekly expiries. I am personally not trading Sensex expiries even now because I want to see even more liquidity there. I want to even see better infrastructure with BSE. So even if MSE is going to come out and get popular as an exchange and with its weekly expiry, I want to wait it out and see how mature, how better, how stable it is going to get. But that is what
so in a market where BSE is the oldest stock exchange in India, MSC with their sort of flexibility, can they come in and take over maybe BSE is also something that people are discussing.